I'd like to set, this is going to be a very serious talk. I'd like to set the mood first by asking if anybody's seen the James Webb telescope pictures of the universe.
Yeah, of course.
Amazing in the news, right? They said if you see the deep field picture and it shows all these galaxies or I think galaxies that you're looking at in there. They said if you hold up a grain of sand at arm's length, that's the amount of sky that you're covering. Each one of those galaxies has billions of stars like ours, which have, or no, they're universes. What are they? I don't know what they are. Yeah, obviously I'm not a astronaut or whatever I do. Millions of stars in there, and each of those stars has planets around it, which means that we're nothing. We're these little meat bags on one planet over here with millions of light years of stars all the way around us. How does that make you feel? But if you believe in interdependence, it's pretty amazing to think that you are connected to all that stuff out there. If you put your hands in Hapjung, I'd like to read the words of the Buddha. This is from the Diamond Sutra. All compounded things are like a dream, a phantom, a bubble, or a reflection. They are like dew or lightning. Thus you should view them. So ends the reading. Like a dream or a bubble, and gone, right? A flash of lightning. View all created things like this. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about why I'm a Buddhist, wondering if maybe you can relate to it a little bit. And it kind of starts with one of the most uncomfortable things in Buddhism, which is that it's full of paradoxes. And if you don't know what I mean by paradoxes, I mean things that are kind of confusing, or at least at first, when you first try to digest it. Something like, it is, but it isn't. And actually something like that you can understand a little bit because like, okay, it kind of is, but it isn't, like it's somewhere in between. Something like that. But then Buddhism is saying things are this way, but they're not this way. Like I'm teaching you they're this way, but they're not that way. But they're also not both this way and not that way. And it's also neither this way or not that way, or everything put together. Whoa. So I'm 15 years old and I'm looking to be somebody. Pretty normal 15-year-old. You wouldn't have liked me. I didn't like me. Trying to find an identity, searching through everything I can find. My older sister, quite a bit older, 7, 8 years older than me, kicking me down some college textbooks that she had, some Buddhism stuff, and I open a page and I read something like this. The universe is infinite, but it's also not infinite. And I'm not going to say anything about it. Whoa, this is cool. I got to look more into this. Well, I didn't look into it, but I told everybody, I'm a Buddhist now. Yeah, look at this. Everything's really cool. Everybody's doing the same kind of thing in high school, I would assume. Maybe people are still doing it right now. I'm still doing it right now. Searching for an identity, something that defines us. While I grabbed onto something that was very superficial, thinking that it held some kind of wisdom, throughout my life I found out that these things that were superficially wise are actually pretty wise too. And it wasn't because I started researching emptiness and non-self and all these things, and I came to these great, how would you say, like academic knowledge about these topics, and I found out how wise they were. It was actually just by living my life, being affiliated with this thing that, at this time, by the way, I wasn't affiliated with the temple. I wasn't affiliated with any formal kind of Buddhism. I started finding more and more that these truths, these wisdoms that I was attached to were popping up in my life over and over again. It wasn't something I attached to like when I told myself I was going to be a writer and I wrote 3 pages of a book and then never started writing again. It wasn't something like my hairstyles in high school, or my taste in music in high school that I held on to. It was something that kept coming back to me over and over again, even though I had let go of it, and then it would appear to me again. And this is kind of an interesting relationship to have with something, especially something so deep. Something that you maybe latch on to a little bit, but then let go of, but it comes back to you. If you love something, let it go, right? I'm sure there's some alternate path where something happens in my life and I don't become a Buddhist. Maybe I become a Christian, or maybe I'm atheist, anti-religion, or something like that, or maybe something totally different where I don't think about religion, constantly occupied by life's treasures. Something interesting that did happen to me very early on when I was finding out about Buddhism is that I had a girlfriend who was very Christian, Protestant, and I would go to church with her and her family. My mother is also Protestant, Presbyterian, and her, what we call him, a minister, her pastor, was a very progressive person in that this was just after 9/11, and he decided that in the evenings he was going to teach classes on other religions so that people wouldn't be so afraid, starting with Islam. So we went to these seminars that this pastor was teaching in the Presbyterian church, and we were learning about Islam, and we learned about Judaism, and we learned about many other religions, including Buddhism. That was one of my first formal lessons about Buddhism, actually. At the surface, a lot of the deepest wisdom in Buddhism can be so simple, it's actually hard to grasp. It's even hard to take seriously sometimes. You might find yourself thinking, do people actually find wisdom in these silly ideas? What's this sound of one hand clapping, right? But the more you study these things and take them, you don't have to take them seriously, but the more that these things resonate in your mind, the more you do find these answers. So I go to college, and I'm studying philosophy. Everybody's, lock the door, nobody's leaving. I'm going to talk about philosophy now. These arguments that are centuries and centuries old, and at this point I had found muddy waters on it. And I'm actually learning more and more about Buddhism, not because I think I'm going to be a monk or something like that. Maybe superficially I have some kind of idea that this is going to be more a part of my identity, but just because I'm learning, because I'm out there searching around. And in these philosophy classes, we're going over these century-old debates that nobody's ever solved. Over and over again, you're reading people writing about it this way and this way and this way, and they're going back and forth, and I'm trying to compile it all together so I can write a 5-page paper about it or whatever I have to do. You know, thousands of years of philosophy. Thinking, where am I going to get an answer out of this? How am I ever going to fit into this, right? How can you be somebody in philosophy? They've been doing it forever and they suck. And I kept finding these answers. Maybe it's not this and it's not that, but it's something in between. Or maybe not, it's not even something in between. Maybe it's something totally different that we're not looking at. Paradigm shift. Whew. That's what I was looking for all these years, that paradigm shift. Really cool. Our webs of ideas become so complex that it's almost impossible to make heads or tails out of it. And if you've ever felt confused like that in your life, you're not alone. Asking you a question to think about in your heads right now. Why do monks live in a monastery? Why did the Buddha create this kind of Sangha life? Why do they have routines? Why do they eat at the same time? Why do they wear all the same clothes? Why do they chant the same things over and over? If you've ever come here Sunday morning and you thought, we're going to do the same chants again, and maybe just zoned out, you're not alone. I felt that too. Chant the same thing over and over again. Why do we do it? I was listening to a Dharma talk by Gil Fronsdal, and he was discussing constancy, was the name of the talk, I believe, and how constancy is very important in our lives. He said, when you live in a monastery like a monk, almost all of your preferences are set out for you ahead of time. You know what you're going to wear in the morning. You don't have to choose. You know what you're going to eat. You don't have to choose. You know what you're going to do. You don't have to choose. You know what you're going to say when you wake up. You don't have to choose. And instead of asking why are we doing those things, we don't always ask why not. Why not do those things? The reason would be this. All those things are spelled out for you. Now what do you think about? We don't spend our days going through the multiple millions of micro choices we make every second. Some of you are making the choice right now to listen to me. Some of you are not. No, just kidding. All those choices we're constantly making day after day. What's left after that? What are we thinking about when we're not making all those choices? When we don't have to make those choices, which modern life today asks of us that we make tons of choices, microsecond choices. When I get to the temple, I'm doing this chant that I've done for 10 years or more, I lost count, over and over and over again. I know every word. What happens at that point when I get here and I know what's going to happen? What happens to you guys? Most of you have been here so long that you probably know most of those things too. You're just as acquainted as I am. There's nothing to worry about until after service is done. So what is there? That's the simple answer to the paradox, right? What is there? That's what it is. Paradoxes in Buddhism serve a really important purpose. And the reason I'm using paradox here as a teaching moment is because it's a catch-all for all the different ways of teaching in Buddhism. So many Dharma talks have been given, so many things have been written, but it all comes down to this wadu. What is it? What is it? We just chanted the Heart Sutra. There is no realization. There's no attainment. There's nothing to attain. I quoted from the Diamond Sutra earlier. Diamond Sutra is about cutting through all those misconceptions that we have in the same way, using a diamond sword. Whew, cuts right through it. And what's left? This word emptiness, right? It is empty. What does that mean? Those things still leave an impression on me kind of when I was a kid. There is some deep wisdom there. I know it. I believe it, right? But you wonder sometimes, like, does people really get something out of this? Emptiness. It seems so abstract. Well, by doing my practice for as long as I have, and knowing this and keeping this idea in the back of my mind, I have seen it appear in daily life. That idea of what's left after you let go of all these compounded things we've put together in our minds, I think it really has an answer, and you might be able to see this. What's an example? When you let go of all of your delusions and you're empty, a scary thing. It might be that time you had a moment of peace and you weren't quite sure why. You just felt peaceful. There was no reason for it. It wasn't because you were getting a foot rub or because you finally sat down after a long day. Just a moment of peace, and you weren't sure why. And then it left. Another thought I had, that adrenaline, when somebody runs to save somebody from something, they don't think about it, they just go and do it. The most kindest thing, they put themselves in danger to get the person out of the way of the running car, something like that. Who has a dog in here? Just one person, no dog? Yeah, you have a dog. People that have a dog or people that have been familiar with dogs know that if you're sad one day, your dog will come and sit next to you. It can sense that about you. And dogs are the perfect Buddha nature in that way. Maybe cats do this too. I don't like cats though. Dogs can just sense it. They have that kind of sense, and we have it too. I think all living things have it. Maybe not living things. Does a rock have Buddha nature? The Diamond Sutra is teaching to attain emptiness. Sorry, this is a quote. This is from the Mirror of Zen. That is the Diamond Sutra's teaching. Attain emptiness, and you attain your true nature. Though it is a Mahayana text, the Diamond Sutra does not concern itself with whether this world is truth or not. More importantly, what kind of thinking do you have in your mind? What is your mind's orientation? How do you keep your mind right now? That makes this whole world. The Buddha says in the Avatamsaka Sutra, everything is created by mind alone. This is a more high-class teaching. The Diamond Sutra begins by showing the impermanence of everything and how we must attain emptiness in order to cut through this thinking dream. But reading this sutra is not enough. If you want to cut your suffering dream, you need to use a diamond sword. Only keep don't know mind. This is your true diamond sword. Why am I talking about this today? Well, one, I'm very excited that we're going to be discussing the Diamond Sutra in a series coming up this fall. So if anybody wants to learn more about the Diamond Sutra, please come to our classes. I think we're doing it on Thursday nights. But also, it's important for all of us to think about what this temple means to us, what we want out of it. And in some ways, that's a hard thing to discuss because wanting things is not something we're taught to do, but we know that we want things. And wanting something to better your practice is a good desire, is a good desire we should follow. I mean, the answers for everything that we need are already here. We chanted them this morning in the Heart Sutra. Thank you, you may go. Right? The practices are 2,500 years old. What more do you want from us? We gave you everything we have, right? Well, the truth is everybody has a different path. I shared a little bit about my path today. Buddhism kind of fell into my lap. I don't even know how I chose it. I chose it superficially, and then it became the thing that defines my whole life. That's most important to me. Everyone has different karma. I don't pretend to know it. We're all mere mortals here. One of the most important things my teacher ever taught me was that nobody is perfect. No matter how much I strive, I'm still going to be a person with all of my faults. And I might not attain it in this lifetime. I might not be perfect by the end of this. Maybe in many, many lifetimes from now. Does that mean that my life is worthless here? I'm asking, does it mean it's worthless? You guys care? We need to work together to create a space that helps each of us individually and helps each of us together. It's kind of a paradox. We need to attain something to not attain it. Deep. And that's why we need your help to do it. Because there's so many different ways to go about this Buddhist path. And they all lead back to one way. But there is no one way. And I'm not quite sure what that means. That's it for the talk right now. I want to move right, maybe, I don't know if we need to step out for a minute. Does everybody want to derobe? Yeah. We'll step out for a minute, but then we'll come back in. I hope everybody can spend some time talking about, I put together a report for us. We can go through the report real quick, talk about what we did, what we want to do, and then most importantly, we'll have time at the end to talk about what you guys are thinking, what we can do at the temple. Thank you.